It's an interesting property. I've got some overhead pictures from back in the 60s. The Circle Drive out there actually had 3 houses on it. Shacks might be a better word. And they got cuttings from Charles Krug down in Napa, I believe it's Old Clone 8, in 66, propagated out by the pond. And actually then in 68 they had a small plot on their side of the driveway, which then each year for 3 years they propagated 1 acre at a time around the winery. So it's 69 over there, 70 over there, and 71 right here. Unrooted dry farm, as you can see. Now I only know this because it was funny. The grandson of the people who planted this in the 60s, the Mount family, calls me up out of the blue after we bought it. Like, vineyard still there? I'm like, okay, who are you? So he told me what happened. So the Mount family planted it, then what became Janico, the group, bought it in 74. And now they built the whole tasting room in front of the winery in 74, 75. John and Laurie Marker were the 2 main people that did that. Well, Laurie Marker is the world famous cheetah breeder. So some of what we have in the tasting room, the stainless steel up there, is the exact same stuff as Wildlife Safari. They're being built at the same time. So I had this one woman come in. It was a great story. So they're back here picking this in 75. Well, Laurie had, what was the name of that? Cayenne, one of the cats from over there, and she also had, what was the other one? She had a Bengal, was it a Bengal tiger? And she had a couple of these over there. So she said she's back here picking. Doesn't hear a thing. All of a sudden, she's on the ground. She's got Cayenne on top of her, licking her face. She's like, Laurie. It's like, don't worry, he's just playing. Okay, is he playing or is he tasting? They out now. So John Marker and Friends was Janico. John, Nick, and Cole, Janico. And there were some other minor partners too. And they put the easement in that comes back here. Now the middle part of the winery where it's one level was a chicken coop in the 60s. So that was the original winery, just that little part. They built the whole tasting room and what's now the kitchen by hand. 92, when La Garza bought it, it went up to the level that it is now, but only to that edge. Right there. In 99 they expanded it all the way down. So it's been built in like 6 different pieces. So there's no gravity feed, no nothing. It's the biggest pain in the ass of all. Steps everywhere, you have to pump everything. It's, God knows you wouldn't design one the way that it is. So it's just been done over the years. La Garza, the family had money from down in the Bay Area. They're still down there. There's the Garcia family, they're import-export. There were 2 couples. One was the Souzas and one was the Garcias. Well, Donna Souza, she was up here. It's an interesting story because she was working over at Hillcrest along with Patty Green for Richard Sommer. Then they bought this. She thought she wanted to go somewhere, and they were kind of hippies, of course, if you know Patty Green. She is too. So they bought this in 91, late 91, early 92, and the first vintage here was 92. Patty Green was the winemaker from 92 through 94. She brought her from Hillcrest. And then from here, of course, she went to Torrey Maury and has had her own label since about 2000. So they started slow, expanded out, had some really good wine in the early 90s, early mid-90s. Then they decided they needed to expand. They went to 5,000 cases and fired their winemaker and had someone making who didn't know what they're doing and ended up with 5,000 cases of 99 wine that wasn't very good, right into the teeth of that 01 recession. They went under. So that's when we took over. We only did 800 cases the first year. We're doing about 3,000 now. It's one of those things. I didn't know if you could really sell Bordeaux varieties, particularly Cab Sauv, Cab Franc, in Oregon. Because there's just a couple of those just a little way south of here. And much to our surprise, it's kind of like building a better mousetrap. If you make a really good Cab Sauv, people knock your door down. You don't have to go find them, they'll find you. And so we found out quickly, so we have embraced that, and I love those kind of wines anyway, and it's really too warm here for Pinot Noir. 400 wineries in Oregon, 350 of them make Pinot Noir. I don't need to be 351. Well, this goes into our estate cab. You can see we don't have crop very much. There's 3 acres of this. We average 7/10, 8/10 of a ton an acre. That's it. It's a little bit heavier right here than virtually all of it. We drop most on the ground without water. You have to, because right now, if we didn't shoot thin and drop all this fruit, they'd shut down. And we'd be lucky to get 20 bricks, and you can't make good wine out of that. So we keep the estate cab separate, sometimes blend it, depending on what it is. If it's what we really want, we do it by itself, because you're only talking 120, 150 cases, which is a pretty small amount, and it's a premium price. We have Syrah up on the other side of the hill that you can see off 42. That hill right there is actually rootstock waiting to be grafted. There's another acre over here that was rootstock. They grafted to Merlot and it froze that winter. There's like 12 Merlot plants and the rest is back to the rootstock again, which is funny because it was planted in '01, so we're 8 years into it. The rootstock actually has little grapes on it, which I hadn't seen it do before. They're little bunches like this all over it. They're tiny little things, but I hadn't really seen it do that. So I hooked up with several growers, and I kind of like to grow some. But if you grow all of it, you're stuck with your fruit too. If you have a bad year, or you get a frost or anything, or some frost last year, of course, that you can look at it a different way too. That is, I can almost cherry pick. See, we pay about 50% on average more than the Oregon grape price to have them grow exactly what I want, the exact location I want. So there's 1 acre of Petite Sirah grown just for me. There's an acre of Sauv Blanc grown just for me. Well, I'm paying $1,800 a ton for Sauv Blanc. But I get exactly what I want. They farm it exactly the way I want and do exactly what I want in the vineyard. Well, that's how you make real high quality grapes and wine. So we got lucky actually in '06 then. '06 we had a huge harvest down here after 2 short ones. So everybody had a lot of extra fruit, and we already have a reputation for, I reject a lot of fruit. They need to do what I want, get it where I want, or I won't buy it. That's in the contract, So we won't take bad fruit, and we rejected a lot of fruit the first couple of years. Well, in '06, you get all these extra grapes, and all of a sudden the phone's ringing. The people who have really good grapes know that we are serious about it, and we'll pay them the right price for it. And all of a sudden, they got our foot in the door at several spots that we wanted to buy fruit from. And we've just taken it from that and expanded. Well, we buy a lot from Quail Run, which is Don and Trouty Moore, of course. They have 11 different vineyard sites, and they vary dramatically. The Griffin Creek site is a high acid, low pH site. Perfect for whites. Strange enough, we get Cab from there too, though. But that's where our Sauv Blanc and our Chardonnay both come from. So I can run Chardonnay up to 25 bricks if I want and still have 7 grams acid and a pH of 3.2, 3.3 because that soil there. Fort Miller Vineyard we get our Merlot from, which is all clone 181, so it makes a really big Merlot. You'd think it was Cab. It's funny, we enter it in contests, and we frequently get silver medals, and if you see the comments like, well, how much Cab's in it, or this, when there's none. It's so big. People are so used to these softer, California's killed Merlot. You plant it where it's not supposed to be, overcrop it, and it's this light, soft, boring wine as opposed to what it really can be. And I buy from various other people. Serenade Vineyard I get Malbec and Syrah from, which is just outside of Ashland. Now that's at 2,200 feet there, so the Malbec doesn't get that ripe. We're picking 22, 22.5, which makes extremely aromatic. You'd think you dropped perfume into the barrels. I had to blend it this year, and we bottled it. I had to blend some Cab and stuff into it because it was too perfumey. It was so perfumey that there's no way the taste could match that, nor would you really want it to. It'd just be so floral. And I put a little dolcetto in it too for a little red fruit. But there's so many different growers that you find the right person that has the right block. I contract to the row in some of them. So we buy 80% of our grapes.
Yeah.
Virtually all Southern Oregon, although I did a Pinot Noir in '06 that was Columbia Gorge.
Okay.
But we're Oregon. It's kind of a pet peeve of mine when these guys at Willamette want to talk about, they're the only ones who make wine, we make Pinot. And then they buy shit out of Washington, right? They go buying Syrah and Cab Sauv and all. It's like, you're in Oregon. How about supporting the Oregon wine industry, Because there's plenty of good fruit being grown down here.